What is up, everybody in YouTube land, and welcome to this episode of From the Mind of an Appliance Technician. I am your friendly neighborhood appliance technician, Chris, and this is my vlog. This is where I get to talk about things that are on my mind when it comes to appliances and things coming down the pipe that I've got going on, things in the industry going on. And right now we are looking at a date of Sunday, still Sunday, August 23rd, 2020. And right now, I just wanted to go over a brief sort of prelude to things and just talk a little bit about the state of what's kind of going on in the appliance industry right now. And things are not good, guys. We have been in this whole COVID-19 thing for several months now, and you know, of course, taking precautions, masking up, hand sanitizing, everything like that. Same stuff I've always been doing, and I've talked to you guys about this stuff before. But what we're starting to see now, at least on the sales end of things, is supply problems. We are starting to see, you know, well, we've seen the distribution facilities that were emptied out when there was a run on freezers. We knew several months ago that they were saying, okay, these are out a while. As of June, and it is August now, bear in mind, as of June, Whirlpool had 1 million back orders for freezers alone. Okay, and that's just Whirlpool, never mind the other companies. Okay, the company I work for deals heavily with Whirlpool and GE, so we pretty much know what's going on, you know, sort of in the grapevine, at least what our reps are telling us. Okay, so we have had GE completely freeze orders. That's no new ordering. Like, what we've already ordered is going to come in on a truck, just kind of like it has been, just kind of piecemeal, whenever, whatever. And we cannot order anything for like a month, at least, I think, is what my boss was telling me. I can't remember what she was saying, but it's at least a month that we cannot order anything for. And they're doing this across the board. This isn't just for small stores like us. Now, there's 5 of us in my store every day, including me. So there's that kind of stuff going on all over the place. We've got calls now. We're in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and we've had calls from as far as Kansas and Texas with people looking for freezers, just because, like, if you go on the company I work for's website, it kind of says that we have freezers. Okay, and our website really never gets updated. The people in charge really don't pay much attention to it, so it's we have to field calls that, you know, we kind of tell people, no, you know, we don't have any freezers, and walk on. I mean, and then there's people that come through the door, and there's been so many people that come through the door that the 2 that are in the office or in the shop every day say that now my direct boss sits at the front desk, and he says that people have a certain way that they walk in and a way they start looking around in the shop, and he calls it the freezer walk. And they can pick people out, and they say, hey, are you looking for a freezer? And people emphatically say yes. And well, we have to tell them that there's really, right now, there's no hope of finding a new one. So we're fixing a lot of older freezers, and I find that my prediction was correct, that I am in fact fixing a lot of things that I ordinarily wouldn't fix, like, you know, doing a lot more sealed system work than I normally would. So there's been that kind of stuff going on. So that's just pretty much the state of the industry nowadays, is just kind of, it's all up in the air. So with that said, I want to go on about to the next couple of things I've got on my list. Just today, I've got a part 2 coming to that Frigidaire refrigerator, that old avocado one that I posted about a little while ago, that 72 model. Just today I ordered a pretty decent gauge set. Looks now, I have a few brand names that I trust, and I wanted a dedicated R12 gauge set because I don't want to take the risk of mixing my 134 gauge set with 12, because there's traces of oil, there's traces of dye, there's traces of leftover refrigerant in those lines. Okay, so I don't want any of that stuff getting into the system that I'm about to charge up. Okay, I think that you guys who are doing sealed system out there need to understand that you need to have a gauge set for each type of refrigerant that you do. So 600A, which is coming down the pipe, you need a set of gauges for those, because those run different pressures, different temperatures. Okay, you need a set for 134, which is right now, at least as of 2020, when I'm filming this, the majority of what we see. And if you're like me and you do things on older stuff, you need a gauge set for 12 and 12 alternatives. In my case, I wanted to see what difference it would make to start messing around with these R12 alternatives. Now, there's a couple on the market. There's several, actually. There's like Red Tech, EnviroSafe, Frosty Cool, and a couple of other brand names out there. It's all the same stuff, basically, okay? And it is sort of a blend of, like, if you took 290, some call it 290 actually, if you took propane and added isobutane. So it is pretty much basically 600A. And the benefit of using that is, okay, you might think, whoa, wait a minute, isobutane, what are you talking about? No. Hold up. R600A, and this is where I really have to touch on what the nature of 600A. Basically, when we are brazing R600, we have to purge after we basically, like, you don't have to. Okay, let's back up here. First thing about 600A is you do not have to have a recovery machine like you would with CFC based or HFC based, which is chlorofluorocarbon and hydrofluorocarbon based refrigerant, respectively. Okay, that's what CFC and HFC stand for. Okay, you need to, according to the EPA, evacuate those refrigerants into an acceptable recovery vessel. Okay, you can either sell it on, where people, there's outfits that actually take, what's the word I'm looking for? The old refrigerant cylinders, the used refrigerants, and everything like that. You evacuate that into a cylinder of its own, a recovery cylinder. Thank you, there it is, recovery cylinder. They will buy the refrigerants in the recovery cylinders and purify them. Okay, there are outfits that do that. Now, I don't know off the top of my head any outfits that do. I just know that that's what happens with it. I have a recovery cylinder. I have a recovery machine, which I do occasionally use. Now, most guys who do sealed systems will just kind of crack the line and let it out. Now, I'm not supposed to tell you that you can do that. You shouldn't be doing that. Legally, I have to tell you you shouldn't be doing that. Okay, but it's so little refrigerant that we're dealing with in our industry. Maybe what, 5-6 ounces or so, you know, at the maximum. So it's a heck of a lot that comes out of even a car system. Okay, even an automotive system. But they still don't want it vented to atmosphere. So 600A, basically what 600A is butane. Okay, but remember how I said it was isobutane, right? What they did is they took butane and added an isomer, and basically what that does is it raises the refrigerant's flash point. Okay, so in other words, a flash point of a material is where it basically flashes into fire. Okay, 134A at 0 psi, i.e. atmospheric pressure, because atmospheric pressure is technically 14.7 psi, but 0 psi gauge is atmospheric pressure. Okay, so if you vent R134 to atmosphere, it's about 1200 and change before it will actually, like 1200 degrees and change before it actually ignites. Okay, you think that, okay, isobutane, it's flammable, which it is, okay. You can't touch it when you're brazing. Like when you're actually brazing the lines, like there's a lot of companies that are recommending that we have these new things called lock rings. Okay, well, they're not new. They've been around for quite a number of years, but there's actually companies that with 600A compressors like LG, they train you to actually use lock rings instead of brazing. I don't really care for lock rings myself, but I do see that they're necessary, and they don't want brazing around that stuff is a liability thing. Your torch will ignite it, okay? But if it is actually released, like if you have a leak in your system, there has to be something really hot to ignite it, because the flash point is something like 2,000 degrees now for this stuff, and even for the R12 alternatives, it's about the same. So they've raised the flash point of this to be acceptably safe, to where, like, yeah, your torch is going to ignite it, but your stove won't, for instance, because the ignition temperature of natural gas, by contrast, is 850 to 900 degrees. Okay, so like all of your your hot surface igniters and things like that in your furnaces, your stoves, things like that, they have to maintain that temperature in order for that natural gas to stay lit. Okay. Whenever they don't maintain that temperature, or are not pulling the correct, and by rights of not maintaining that temperature, are not pulling the correct amperage, then boom, you've got a stove that doesn't light, or a furnace that doesn't light. Okay, same principle. So what they've taken to doing with these EnviroSafe refrigerants is they've kind of blended propane and isobutane together, so it's not purely 600A like we would use in some of the modern newer refrigerators. It's a blend to kind of get it up to the same point that R12 is. That's about the extent of my understanding about it, but the beauty part is less weight of this will do the same amount of work. Okay, so you get like a 4 or 6 ounce can. I don't know which it is yet. They haven't really told me the denomination that I freaking ordered. I've got to weigh it when it comes in. I'll tell you guys all about it in the video when I find it, but the charge that they give you is equivalent to 18 ounces of R12, basically. So it's less material to be flowing around in there, i.e. less for the compressor to compress. Therefore, they claim that it will extend the life of your compressor, which makes a lot of sense. And honestly, on these older vintage compressors, we need all the life we can get out of them, guys, okay? You can replace these compressors with a similar BTU compressor, but that takes some searching, some kind of, it takes a little bit of research to find that. So we want to preserve the original compressor for as long as possible. Now, on to the part where I was talking about dedicated gauges. Okay, you need a set of gauges for everything you do. Okay, so I went out and I bought, actually I went to eBay and I bought a set of R12 gauges. Okay, this is a set that was made by Robinair, which is one I trust implicitly. I wasn't going to get any brand name that I don't really trust. There's a couple that come to mind: SPX Robinair, Yellow Jacket, which is made by Ritchie, because Robinair is made by SPX, Yellow Jacket is made by Ritchie, and then there is Uniweld. All those three brands I trust implicitly, and I would use them in any application. Now, it's a 3-port manifold standard. Looks also to have, and I couldn't really see the hoses. They didn't have very good pictures of the hoses, so I'm not sure if I'm getting automotive gauges or HVAC gauges. And I need HVAC gauges, but that's okay because I have an extra set of hoses that I can use if I need to, and I can just purge them. and it's no gauge. It's nothing that I use regularly. It's off an old gauge set that probably doesn't have anything in it anyway. So I can just purge the lines and be done, and then it will be a gauge set for R12, and that's what I'll use. So that's, and if I have the automotive hoses, great. I can use them for automotive applications. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really hurt me. But as I remember from my automotive training, they should be very similar to HVAC hoses anyway, so I should be able to use them. But I can't remember. It's been so many years since I've seen a car with R12. I really can't remember if there's a difference between HVAC and automotive hoses of those types when it comes to R12. So anyway, we're going to find out all that. I will definitely be updating you guys when I do get the stuff in. And we're going to do a whole video about charging that refrigerator up. You're going to see kind of my pitfalls and everything, and I'm going to preface this with the fact that as far as pressures go on these, I haven't yet located a temperature and pressure chart. I can't really charge by weight, so I may just have to do this by like seat of the pants feel, which is going basically until the line starts to ice up, and then you just kind of bleed it out slow until that line coming out, that suction line doesn't ice up anymore. It's not really the correct way to charge, I know, don't fight me over it, but that may be the way that we have to go with this stuff, and we will see. But it is, in its very nature, this stuff, it's okay to release it directly to the atmosphere. Okay, now when you recharge this system, okay, if you're ever to recharge this system, you need to take into consideration that you must purge this with nitrogen if you braze. Okay, lock rings, you don't really have to do anything. Okay, but you must purge this with nitrogen before you start to braze if you're in the customer's home. Okay, the first time I had 600A okay, the first time I had 600A, it was a mini fridge that a guy was going to chip. It was a Uline mini fridge, actually, really expensive mini fridge, and this guy was chipping the ice off of the back of his. It's just a flat evaporator in there, no fan, no nothing. It just kind of sits there and cools whatever it cools. So it is just the flat sort of panel type evaporator that sits at the back of that fridge, and he was trying to chip the ice away because he thought for some odd reason, that he could speed up the defrost process and punch right through one of the capillaries in that evaporator and let all the refrigerant out. Now there's always something hanging out in those lines, so what I did was I just did what I normally do and cut that process tube off. I figured, okay, all that refrigerant's out of it, and then I went to braze it, and boof. Luckily I was in a shop environment and nothing was hurt. I wasn't hurt, but it was definitely a learning experience, and you know, it's just something that I learned to say, okay, well, now that's the one thing about this place is they're not really heavy on training, or they don't really emphasize training, and they just kind of leave it up to me to do what I need to do and figure it out because they know I can. And the downside to that is I have had to seek out all my own training, and that's not necessarily where I want to be. More on that to come, but suffice it to say, I had to make myself the better technician. I had to seek out my own education, do my own research, and I think that's why I have developed a passion for this stuff, you know, through my own research, I have developed a love of these things, and that's why we want to keep the old stuff going. Okay. So with that, I think we're at about the 20-minute mark now. I think I'm going to cut it off here. I just wanted to keep you guys updated on what's going on, and that is pretty much all that I've got for you guys. We've got that. They say that it should be here by the 29th. All of this stuff should be here by the 29th. So look for that part 2 sometime after then. Okay. I'm trying to be a little bit more consistent with the videos that I put out, but there's a lot of stuff that I get to the stage of editing and I'm like, I just don't like something in that. Okay. So that's why I haven't really been as consistent as I should be with videos as much as I would like to be. I'd at least like to be uploading a couple a week, and I just haven't got there yet because there really hasn't been enough opportunity. Like I said, summer is usually my busy time. We're coming to the tail end of what is summer here now, but it's usually my crazy time, and it's been summer for me since March, guys. I have been running around doing calls like a chicken with my head cut off, and it's just because people have nothing better to do, I guess, than scrutinize their appliances when they're home in quarantine. So now here in Oklahoma, the quarantine is basically lifted, and we will see what happens from there. COVID is still a real danger out there. So all of my techs who watch this channel, please stay safe. And I love all of you. Stay safe, go home to your families. That's the main thing that matters. You know, money aside, that's what matters. So thank you guys for watching so much. You guys could be about 50,000 other places on YouTube, but you're here with me, and I super duper appreciate it. So with that, I will catch you guys on the next episode.